So the Kav HaYashar goes on and says that a person has to know that many, many, many things depend on sight. And it also depends on how we utilize the sight and utilize our thought process. So therefore, says the Kav HaYashar, when someone wakes up in the morning and a person looks at a house, what should you think about? Right? In general, the way that our brain works, the way that most brains work, that most people work, is that they go and they're just going out through their day. Their mind is working there. Their eyes, they're able to focus, they're able to drive, they're able to walk, they're able to do something else, but they're not really looking and like taking that information, translating it consciously, subconsciously, and understanding what they're saying. So the Kav HaYashar is saying, no. The way that you're supposed to do it is when you look at something, then you consciously have to think about something, right? You have to think about what you're looking at. So if you're looking at a house, you should reflect on the mitzvos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God gave us on a house. So let's say you look at a house, you think about the mitzvah of mezuzah. We have an obligation to put on each doorway a mezuzah. Or you could look at a house and you say there's an obligation that you have to put a makkah, you have to put a protective wall, a protective fence, so that a person doesn't fall off the roof. So there are positive commandments that God gave us for a certain mitzvah. So what's happening is that your eyes are looking at something, you're taking that vision, you're connecting it with your mind, and now what you're doing is that you're cloaking it in holiness, because that you're connecting that vision in your mind to a mitzvah that the Torah says. So you're taking the information, you're processing it, and you're creating it into a holy, positive mitzvah thought. And he goes on, the Kav HaYashar, that let's say you see a clean animal, you're walking, like again, back in those days, there were animals, people were farmers, and they had animals, so you see a clean animal. What does a clean animal mean? A kosher animal. So you could think about, okay, there's a mitzvah of karbanos, there's a mitzvah of sacrificing, you could think about the Beis HaMikdash, you could utilize your mind to think about it in the Torah aspect, in the mitzvah aspect, in a positive aspect. And then let's say you're walking and you see an impure animal. So you could have, a thought process that the Torah says you're not allowed to eat an impure animal. Let's say you're walking down the street and you see a non-Jewish person. You could think about, okay, there's a command, there's an obligation, there's a commandment that you're not allowed to go and intermarry with them unless they convert, whatever it is. But I'm saying, so you have the ability to take it, and the Kav HaYashar says you could take that information, each person according to their level of understanding, right? So you have a well-learned person could go into really deep detail on each, vision that or sight that he sees or she sees, and then you have someone on a a lower level that they could just, the basics, but each one on their level, you have the ability to go and understand it and comprehend it and take that sight, turn it into a positive thought and connect that thought and then cloak it into holiness.